live stream. This meeting is being live streamed. We are now, Victoria Louise, we are now live. So let's just do the whatchamacallit thingamajigs. See if it's on Facebook, see if anybody's listening. Because sometimes, if I remember, oh, hang on this. Look, I haven't done that. Oh, bloody idiot. See if it's on Facebook. Shut up. Stop it. You're getting on my nerves. Okay. Victoria, do you like being called the full name Victoria? Or do people call you Vicky?
Yeah, I'm Vicky to friends and family that have known me forever. Victoria, Vic, I don't care.
Can I call you Vicky? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Vicky rhymes with, oh, don't even go to Joseph. Right. How are you, my love? Right. And what's going on in your world?
I'm very good, thank you. What's going on? Oh, gosh. The whirlwind that has been the last 2 months. Just coming back down to earth, I think. I'm not sure.
No. Who can be sure in this peculiar time and this peculiar world that we live in?
No one.
So, for people who've not met you before, because I've only met you the once, haven't I, in the US of A, right? And we got on all right dead quickly, didn't we?
We did.
And that's always a good sign, I think, as I've said to you before. We got on like a house on fire. It's a very peculiar expression. But for those who don't know you, who are you and where do you come from, number 2? Scylla told me to say that from the world of spirits, you know.
I bet she did. I saw her once, actually. She's very good.
Surprise, surprise. Oh, don't. Oh.
Let's not. Me. Okay. Don't even know where to start. Essentially, I don't know who I am. I'm still figuring that out, right? Aren't we all? And yeah, I'll start with, I guess, this kind of crazy world of awakening and becoming a bit more aware and conscious of all the things. Probably started almost 11 years ago. So it kind of aligns with when a lot of people were coming awake, or whatever it is you want to call it. I don't like that word so much, but yeah. And it's just been a crazy wild ride from working in a corporate world that sent me into the abyss a few times, and then leaving that crazy world and becoming a yoga teacher, doing some energy healing work, yeah, just trying to find my way, I think, which is what so many of us struggle with. And so for me, it's really important that I share actually my story about all of that, and the fact that you're not, crazy. And then it's actually really normal for people to go through this. So, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I could say exactly the same thing. People get onto me for some reason as though I know what's going on. And I have to say to them, please believe me, from one moment to the next, I've got no idea. And they say, well, how come you're doing all this? And I'll say, well, I don't know. All I can say is that something deep inside me seems to move me to the next action I need to take. And this is where I find myself, And that's true that, I really, really don't know. And I used to be a person when I worked in my first sort of professional life was as a sort of biomedical scientist in the National Health Service in the UK, and I was like a boss there. And people used to ask me questions then, and I still didn't know the answers then, but I used to make up the answers then, you know what I mean? I just used to blag and bullshit my way through everything, And I don't do that anymore because mostly people just say to me, what do you think I should do? And I'll say, honestly, I don't know what you need to do, other than if you plug into your heart here and you allow your heart to soften and open, it's almost like something in us starts to guide our you see, now look, this is what happens to me. And I say this to people. When I said that then, and my heart opened up like that, I got like a up my spine, right? And that's like we are with you. Well, that's awfully nice. Like, we are with you. Who are with me? Who are you? What's your names? Where do you come from? And how can I be sure, right, that you're working for the correct side? And I get then in my left ear, which is my left ear, this one. I get in my left ear. Well, look at your life since we've got in touch. Has it improved or got worse? And I think, oh, all right then. and then they say to me, and I don't do that, you know, my team, because I've got no idea what all that means. That's not my cup of tea, that, you know. But they say to me, son, we've got you. You're covered.
Yeah.
Get a life.
Same. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do I feel about it? Now, I could put names on this to say, like, I get moved every single moment by the Holy Spirit. But that sounds a bit like religiously either. And I can honestly, and you know this anyway, I'm definitely not a religious type person. In fact, I'm very, very irreligious, really, you know. And I have to just say to people, everything that comes out of my mouth really is just taking the piss. You know, I just take the piss all the time. And people say, "Oh, are you laughing at me?" And I'll say, "Yes, I am." You know, no, you should be laughing with me. No, I said, "I'm laughing at you," right? Because it makes me, there's no harm in me wishing to harm anybody. I just want to, like, have people, because they're so miserable, aren't they? The world's such a miserable bloody place, right? I just try and bring a bit of lightheartedness into the conversation if possible. And more people are becoming too sensitive to it. And, you know, if they get offended by what I say, because the intention's not to harm, it's to chuckle, really, then I just, like, cross them off my Christmas list.
Yeah. Yeah. And rightly so. And do you know, I'm guilty. I was one of those people. I had those moments years ago where I was so serious all the time. And I was miserable. I was miserable like that. Like, it, you know, there's no point. It's when you get to that point when you start trusting, like you said, you're coming from here. So it's anything I say comes from my heart. Like, I mean goodwill. And if I'm taking the piss or having a laugh with you, then that's a good sign, because it means that I'm comfortable with you, right? And that's actually really, really nice. So yeah.
Well, just before we start this conversation, I tried to, because this feeling I get, you know, I was looking forward to meeting up with you, because I know we're going to have a laugh, you know, and maybe there'll be some deadly serious stuff that comes out of this as well. Because there's always in me, I mean, somebody classified me once, and I hate being classified, but as part of the Heyoka clan. I said, well, okay, what's a Heyoka clan? Well, it sounds like Joker, but generally in the tribe, they were the crazy wise ones who were like in a wigwam. Is that the right word? Yeah, a wigwam or a teepee, whatever they call that thing, right on the border, because they were like bonkers and barking, you know what I mean? So, but people used to trust them because they seemed to get information from otherworldly sources, like out of the box sort of things. They would almost like seem to bring back information that was applicable to this 3D human existence that we live in. And I sort of see myself as one of them people, you know, but they were like barking mad, but very wise at the same time. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm a wise person, but I can say that sometimes the information that comes in seems wise, but it's coming in from outside of Joe's human mind. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, really.
Yes, exactly. And it's the same, you know, it's one of those things, if you take it back to its basic levels, I can go anywhere, be anywhere, in a supermarket, on the street, going for a walk, with my new neighbours in my new village, and people will open up to me, tell me their life stories, and ask me, "Oh, what do you think about this?" You know, and "What do you think about that?" And "Can you, you know, advise me on this?" I remember I was on a trip to Sri Lanka once, and there was a woman there having a really rough time. There was like a small group tour. And she was going through a divorce and all this thing. And this was quite a few years ago. And we were talking, and she just sat there and went, "You're so wise for someone so young." And I just was like, "Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it," you know, because it's one of those things. I share what I've learned. I share my experiences. And then if anything else flows through me that they need to hear, that'll also come out, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I sort of have a sort of technique now that I've learned over the years, that I'll shake my head like that, throw it off, and then just try and listen to the sort of inspiration. Now, inspiration, right? Inspire, as you know from yoga, it means to breathe in, you know. And I think that what I've learned more than anything else is, this is the biggest lesson is, right? Just become aware of your breathing. That's the end of the story. And you know, and I picked up a book by somebody called Yogi Rama Shiraka, which was written in 1908 or something like that, and it just transfixed me. I thought, this is true, this. And he talks about the human avatar or the human body, you know, the vehicle that sort of transports the soul around. And I thought, oh, this sounds a bit dodgy, you know, but I understand it now at a different level. He's saying all the channels and all, they're all covered, you know, they're all blocked up with crap and sort of like dust and everything. And he said, as the seed atom, which is the soul, awakens, so that will be a spiritual awakening, it will start to push its way through this human avatar that's been blocked, right, in order to clear all the channels. Because as the channels start clearing, more and more streams of information come in from these multi-dimensional, I don't know what I'm talking about here, I'm just going to keep going, right? More and more streams of information or consciousness start flowing in, and you start to get an expanded understanding about the cosmos works, right? So I'm thinking, what's he going on about? So he gives you like some sort of basic starting exercises to do with breathing, you know, and one of them is basically to focus on heart-centered breathing, you know. Now, I was a biomedical scientist. I didn't have a clue about all this sort of stuff, but something in me said, what have you got to lose? It's just breathing. Why don't you try it, you know? Yeah. And what that's done over the last, say, 33 years or whatever, it's guided me into more refined breathing techniques that seem to have different effects, if you like, really, you know. And I know that you teach yoga, you know, you're a yoga practitioner. I know how important breathing is to you, but can you add anything to that might help people?
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest thing. Like you said, coming back to the breath is the biggest thing that I focus on in my classes. So I primarily teach something called yin yoga, and some people may have heard of it. So it's a really slow, gentle practice. For me, I do it all floor-based. And the main focus is bringing that awareness back into our body and back into our breath. And what that can do for the nervous system, as you know, is profound. And so, yeah, there's so many, right? There are so many different breathing techniques, and it can be really, really simple, as literally like a inhaling for 4, exhaling for 4, and just continuing with that until you're bringing yourself back into this like homeostasis type of place, right? And I had, actually, it's funny we're talking about this. I had a really amazing experience on Boxing Day. One of my really good friends came round, and she's just started doing a breathwork course. It's called Soma Breath. I don't know too much about it.
Yeah.
And she was like, I said, you know, if you want to have a practice on me, let's go for it. So we did that, and it was incredible. It's really amazing how I struggle to hold my breath. So there's a breath retention in that, and that's a bit tricky for me. But it's something to work on. And I've always been quite reluctant to really delving in deep to the breath work, because I struggle with my breathing. Like I've really, really struggled with, I had a deviated septum. So I couldn't really breathe very well through my nose. And whenever I was practicing yoga, teachers would be like, now breathe through your nose. I'm like, I can't. I literally can't breathe through my nose. So learning to breathe through my nose again and learning to breathe into my belly. That was another thing. I couldn't breathe into my belly. They don't breathe into your belly. And I'm sitting there thinking there must be something wrong with me. Like literally, what is wrong with me? But I found out literally 2 years ago, I was seeing an osteopath. And this might help some people if they're the same as this. And they're thinking, do you know what? I can't breathe into my belly. How do you even do that? He was checking my alignment. He was looking at my body, and he was like, your rib cage is so tight where you've held tension and stress there that you physically you can't open your diaphragm because everything's so tight. And so he did whatever he needed, like pulled underneath my ribs with his hands, and it was a bit uncomfortable. But then, ever since then, I can now breathe into my belly, which is incredible. It's a game changer. So
Fascinating, and that's why, you know, and our friend Kristin, morning Kristin, nice to see you, my love. You know, she's sort of on the same pathway, if you like, or the same, I don't know how to explain it, skill set, if you like, about how important it is to be in the body, to get back into the body and out of the fantasizing that the head does, really, you know, because the world, you know, the 3D world is almost set up to keep you in your head. You know, we're almost like or audio visual programmed automatons, really. And until you see that, you don't know. Everything's just a sort of automatic programmed reaction to what's going on. And I don't know where I'm going with this. Oh yes, I know. So the breathing helps us to get back into our body, and then with our feet on the ground connected to Mother Earth. So it's almost like core consciousness to me is from the center of the earth itself. And I see that the earth is the mother, and the sky, if you like, is the father, and that's all that connection and stuff. Can you remind me what you said? Because I that one here, wouldn't you think he'd have notes so he could like keep on track? I can't.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So breathing is so important. It is everything, right? It's that life force energy that we talk about. It's that prana. It's getting it moving through our bodies. So any stuckness, if there's any energy blockages in our body, coming back to our breath is going to help to clear those. It's
That's what I was going to say is with the deviated septum, because I did too. I had to go and have an operation actually to
me
clear
too.
it out.
Yeah.
Oh well, there you go. So the thing is, what I didn't realize was that if you only breathe through one nostril, you're only a one-sided person, really. Because no, and I'm not being funny in that. Really,
Yeah.
it's you automatically default to the same side of your processing all the time. I didn't know this until I started to do alternate nostril breathing, and I could like one side would come in all right, and the other side would be like. And I'd be getting all panicky because the breath wouldn't go through my nostril, and I see now that, Ida, Pingala, Shisham, the Nadis, all those, the sun breath, the moon breath and all that, that we have this thing on the top of our head called the pineal gland. It's like a clock, it's the pineal gland actually regulates our biorhythms in our body, right? And we're so out of touch with our natural essential biorhythms that's probably why the world's cracking up, because there is, whether we like it or not, and I can't deviate from this. There's a massive shift in consciousness going on. That's all to do with astral, meaning stars, and astrological alignments that are much more powerful than us, and that's why people are cracking up, because they don't know how to handle this information as it emerges, And what I'm saying is about alternate nostril breathing. There's more information to be held or to be delivered in the space of the breaths, isn't it? And I know that you know what I'm talking about here. It's when we stop breathing naturally. The gap between breaths, if you like, is the neutral point. That's where all this new energy starts to flow in. So if we allow the breath to breathe us, now some people who are listening to this will understand. Some people think, what's he going on about? But the point is, if we get out of the way of our programmed breathing and we just allow the breath to breathe us, I think that's when we're naturally, completely and utterly aligned with our soul self and therefore our spiritual purpose. Right. I'm just going with this morning, does that make sense in some sort of a way?
Yeah, there's two things I kind of want to pick up on that. And I guess the first one is again the basics for people who aren't connecting to their breath as much as they'd like to. It's something as simple as 10 minutes. Whenever you get 10 minutes, I like to do it first thing in the morning, is to just lay down on my yoga mat and take 10 minutes to breathe and to stretch. Like breathing that breath back into the body and preparing yourself for the day. And over time, what you tend to find is how you slow down the breath. Naturally, you begin to breathe deeper and slower and gentler. And actually, you'll know that obviously the slower you breathe, the better it is for you. It's actually, I'm not very technical with all the science stuff, but from some of the books that I've read, I think it's called, is it Breathe? Got it out there, Breathe. James Nestor. Have you read that one? Incredible book. If you want to look into breathing and the breath, and they've done all the scientific experiments as well as the spiritual aspects and stuff. So it's a really great book for enlightening you more about the breath and how powerful it is. It's amazing.
Marvelous, this, because to me this is all. I mean, I'm all about the body, really, and you mentioned this diaphragmatic breathing, but I know now that the heart is basically captive, right, within the rib cage, right. And years and years, if you've been born a super sensitive child like most of us and people who listen to these, then we will have a lot of muscular, right, a musculoskeletal misalignments really, and chronic muscle tension from being hyper vigilant all our life, you know. And you don't just let that go. Exactly. We don't just let that go by saying, oh, I'm going to let it go. We have to almost do like an unwinding thing, you know, to do that, you know. And I spent a lot of time, I mean, my PhD, which it took, I mean, I'm still learning all the time, but my PhD basically was about how breathing impacts directly upon the way that the heart works. And the way that the heart works directly impacts upon the way that the brain waves work. And considering how the brain waves work is that's where we think from. And the, you know, the brain waves, you know, people think that they can put a new thinking in to change their behavior. But when it's all to do with defensive behavior from childhood, you can't generate enough power from your head to change the patterns that are deep, you know. And this is so important. So what we have to do, in my understanding, is, you know, and there'll be bits here that I'm not sure of, but I'm just saying what I've learned myself here, you know, because I think that we've all got to share things together and insights coming from different perspectives. But what I'm saying is, I went to shiatsu, I went to osteopaths, I went to chiropractors, I went to massage therapists, right? And basically, I've been pummeled in every part of my body to try and reset my musculoskeletal system, you know. And when I'm saying this, these are professional people who know what they're talking about, you know. And I work this, I'm a qualified remedial massage therapist as well, but also I'm an energy worker, and I sort of been given the ability, to put it that way, or the ability has emerged where I can look at somebody, I can see where they're misaligned, I can use physical techniques to try and help them, and then I can try and apply some energy techniques where that can realign them then. So if you like, muscles, nervous system, skeleton, then we move into the invisible, if you like, the morphic fields or the morphogenetic templates, right? Out to the nadis, the meridian system, and out to the cosmos. Then I've got a feeling I'm going on a lot here, so you can butt in and say, shut it now, I've got something to say.
No, it's exactly that, right? It's all of the things. And I think that sometimes we can get caught up in, oh, you know, I need to see a doctor, an osteopath, a chiropractor, and all of those things are great and they all have their place. But ultimately, it's the energy that we are all made of, right? And that's what I love about you, and the science behind the energetic side of it, and mixing all of that together is just incredible. So it's the same with what I do. Similarly, it's like a mirror, really, in the yoga and the yoga postures and the movement, and finding that movement back into the body, the skeleton, the muscles. But then obviously there's the element of bringing the breath into the yoga practice. And then the same as you, I do the energy work as well. So I tend to use something called quantum touch healing. So I'm trained in that, as well as like crystal healing. So calling in a little bit of extra assistance in that sense, and raising the body's frequency, right? So it's all about, you know, resonance and entrainment with quantum touch. So I, on a really basic level, raising my frequency so that the person I'm working with, their body does the same. And that all comes back to the heart, because it all begins with love, right? It all comes from here, all of it, all of it.
I got this morning before this talk, because things come into my mind, you know, and I think, you know, what give us a clue, you know, is there anything particular? And I got, yeah, Joe, you need to really help people in joining the university of tough love. I thought, oh, here we go. And it's almost like, you know, it's to get out of fantasizing, to get out of pretending, to get back in the body and to take actions to make your life better, the people around your life better, and to make the world a better place. You've got to do stuff, because, you know, all this stuff about why just sit in being, this is just me now and the way I process information to see. I'm not having a go at anybody at all. I'm just saying this is me exactly as I see things. I think a lot of people talk about, and I've done this myself, you know, I've sent out love and light and everything, and nothing fucking changed, you know. Excuse my French, by the way, because that happens sometimes. people have said to me, why do you swear? And I said, I swear because most people that I talk to swear as well. And so they can see that like I'm an ordinary person, you know. But when I'm going to give talks and medical conferences and stuff, I don't swear there for some reason, you know, because I think it's about understanding the audience and just allowing that expression, you know. I don't know why I went down the swearing route there, but I've come back again. Right? That's why they call me Dr. Effin Joe, you know. So to go back to the University of Tough Love, you know, and I know that I work with a lot of people, you know, who've gone through it, you know, who've tried to take their own lives, and like myself, you know, and so I have a certain sense of, if you like, a resonance of where they're at, you know. And sometimes Uchi fucking Coochie doesn't do it, you know, it doesn't work because the message that we carry, it's got to have some depth and it's got to have some weight to it. And this is what I learned, Vicky. I learned that frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. It's not enough. You know, all that, oh, it's going to get better. Now, are you familiar with something called transactional analysis?
It rings a bell. I don't know it in any great depth.
Yeah, it's just basically about, some people believe, and this is psychology really, that we have three different ego states. We have a child state, a parent state, and an adult state in the middle, really, you know. And, you know, I think that transactional analysis have sort of, they're on the right path, but they haven't quite got the next stage yet. You've basically got to come out of those ego states to allow them to sort of recalibrate together. Anyway, I digress. But the point I'm trying to make is that there will be a sensitive child in there that needs nurturing, you know. And I know as part of your job is that you work with young children in a nursery setting. Now, nurture and nursery, they're all part of the feminine aspect of the human being, the sacred feminine that I call that. And I think that that's coming back in. But I think also is sometimes the mother side of things needs to just tap the child on the bottom to say, yeah, you know, you're just going into a bit of danger there, or maybe think about this. So I don't know where I'm going with this, other than to say that I've had to work with people, and it's almost like to nurture and help the frightened child to take the steps they need to grow. But the other thing is, and this is mostly the people I work with, is those people who know what they think that they, you know, that they think that they know what's going on. They haven't got a clue, you know. How do I know? Because this is who I was for most of my life, you know. I thought I knew what was going on, and I can see clearly looking back now, I did not have a clue whatsoever, not a Scooby-Doo, you know. And somebody said to me, considering you've got all these qualifications, right, and you've got all this knowledge about medicine and health and everything, he said, considering you've just tried to take your own life 3 times, he said, it doesn't seem to be working very well for you, right? And he said, have you ever heard the expression, know all knows fuck all? I said, yeah. He said, Joe, he said, I've been trying to tell you this for months. It's you I'm talking about, right? Because you think you know, but plainly you haven't got a clue. And something went boom in my heart. It was like I got stabbed in the heart, and it opened up, right? And I think that that was probably once I started to see the world in a different way, because my intellectual pride and thinking I knew what I was talking about was blocking me from seeing or feeling what my intuition was trying to tell me. I feel like I'm on one today, but I'm sorry about that, Vicky. But
that's okay.
does it make some sort of sense?
It does, yeah. I think it comes back to one of my favorite words, balance. We need it all, right? We need it all. We need to. There's a place for the intellectual part. There's a part for the learning and the knowledge. But ultimately, if you're not balancing that with the wisdom and the heart stuff, then it's useless. And also, like, I think what's really important is that experiential aspect, and that is why people come to you, and that's why people come to me, because I've been there, I've done it, I've got the t-shirt, and it's really important that they see I am just human. Like, I am equally divine as I am human, but that human aspect is real, you know, as real as it is right now, right? And it's really easy to lose that when you're on a spiritual journey and being the love and light thing. If you know, we can't be in that place all the time. It's nice to do that, and it's important that we sit and just be sometimes, but the balance is so important. So yeah, like that's Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
I see when you said that, love, like I get say this now, Joe. Love and light, load of shit. I said I can't say that. I can't say
Say
yeah,
it.
people might be offended. And we started off, didn't we, that, do you give offense, right, or do you take offense or whatever? And my view now is that no matter what's happening external to me, right, if I feel offended, it's me ego, because the God, the divine part of me, whatever you want to call it, I'm not a religious person, but that's divine. It can't be hurt, right? Because it just loves, it just expresses, and it sees people like that, or myself, or whatever, and it laughs. They've got some growing up to do, So spiritual growth to me means emotional growth, and it means growing up. And this is what my mother used to say to me, and still does when I go and see her, right? She says, you need to grow up, son. Right. And I know that, I'm only just, like I said to you this morning, this feeling I have when I meet people like yourself and Christian and people like that, the feeling I have is so massively open. It reminds me of my days when I was back in primary school. I couldn't wait to go to primary school and to meet me. See, look, I'm having a Kundalini experience now, right? Up my whole body and all that, and it's almost like being in the school playground with all my friends, you know what I mean? And I used to play with all the girls, right? And because I was afraid of the boys, and considering I'm like 6 foot tall and like a big fella, and I've played rugby and all that, which was all alcohol fueled because I couldn't stand getting hurt, you know what I mean? So I'm still the same, I'm still right, much more comfortable in with loads of women around me,
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And it's not for any particular other reason. People say, oh, yeah. No, it's not that. I'm much more comfortable in that whole nurturing feminine energy, right?
Yeah.
And I still have a sort of thing in me that doesn't like to play out with the boys because they're too roughy tufty. And when you consider all the stuff that I've done physically over the years, it doesn't look like that. But I'm just being dead honest that I'm much more comfortable, right, in that feminine nurturing energy. But I
Yes.
know that, if I was put into a corner, I could look after myself if need be,
Yeah.
because there is in me a black dragon with red-tipped, blood-stained claws that can look after me, I've got no idea what I'm talking about, but over to you, kiddo.
Yeah. It's funny actually. I guess I was the opposite. I was the same as you. That primary school feeling is how I felt when we were at Soul Fest, right? I was there with all my friends. I wanted to talk to everybody. I wanted to get to know everybody. But I was the tomboy. So when I was at school, I was the one hanging around. I was the girl hanging around with the boys. What I didn't know then is that nurturing mother was already in me. And I guess that was, what my role was in playing with the boys more so than the girls. I can hold my own with the girls, but um, I don't know. Is it I go where I'm needed? I don't know.
Well, I
There's,
think that at an early age, before I was like heavily conditioned and programmed by society, right? That's what I was comfortable in, being
yeah,
with the girls, playing rounders, all the boys. Now, I'm not a football person. People try and talk to me about football. I've got no idea what they're going on about because I've tried. In my teenage years, when I was like more with the boys, right? I used to try and remember all the names of the football teams and all that to try and be part of it. But I've never fitted in groups of fellas, right? And I still don't, and I'm just being honest about it. And I'm only learning like everybody else. This is where I'm up to. Things come to me out of the blue, right? If you like, most of the time, initially, I've got absolutely no idea what it's all about until I talk to people and they'll suggest, do you think it could be that? Right. I can't stand being told either. I can't stand being told because there's something in me that goes, and that's when that one comes in to say, get out of me face, get out of me space. By all means, offer suggestions. Do not tell me what to do. And that's where I'm up to, really,
yeah,
And so there are those two parts of my nature that are working together for the benefit of this thing here, which is Joseph Delaney, Joseph Peter Aloysius Delaney, right? To sort of almost like transmit the message. And what's the message? The message is, this is where I'm up to. This is how I'm thinking. This is what I'm feeling. And I'm totally open and honest here. If anyone wants to come in and criticize me, let me know your address. I'll pop round and have a cup of tea with you. Because I'm just opening myself up, and I know that there's something in me that says, just do it, Joe, because more people are like you than you realize. And if you can share this and almost like do that, right, and become naked to it all, if you like, then
Yeah.
they may get some benefit from this and start to open up and let all the shit of years and eons of time start to be brushed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the biggest things that has been in the forefront of my mind for years, especially since being on this journey. One of the main reasons I wanted to get into helping other people, it's like help people help themselves, right? One of those was, see how much I can share here. I'm just going to say it, fuck it. My uncle, my uncle is a very spiritual guy, right? He's into a lot of the things that we talk about. He reads a lot about stuff, but he is so in the closet with that because he's a guy in his 60s and 50s at the time when I started to awaken and have more open conversations. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I say it as it is. If this is what I'm experiencing, these are the things I'm doing. If you don't like it, that's okay. That's okay. But this is what I'm doing for me. And but yeah, sorry, I digressed. But yeah, him not having someone to speak to about these things, not finding his community, his tribe, people that were on his wavelength, and someone to share those deeper things of that heart and that mind, connection, was, yeah, it's so important. It's so important that people hear your story and hear what you've been through and your honesty and your openness. And I still see it now. I'm still meeting guys who are on this journey, but I'm worried about what people are going to think, what people are going to say. And so these sorts of conversations are so, yeah, they're huge. They're huge.
I think so, and I've when I first started to do this, obviously I was apprehensive, full of egomania, which hasn't changed at all. I'm well aware of my ego aspects. I'm well aware of it, but I can see them now. I can see them coming in. Sometimes I let them in. Sometimes they pop in by themselves when I'm tired, and stuff like this. And I become like that, chuck me rattle out of the pram like a little baby, spoiled brat and all that, But I'm aware of those now. Previously, I wasn't aware of it. I was just acting like that all the time. There was no separation from environmental conditions, right, and the emotional reaction. So that's the program. And I can see now that all of us, whether we know it or not, or whether we like it or not, are programmed at depth and have been for maybe even millions upon millions of years. But I don't get into all that. My life now is about, you wake up, you've got a full clean sheet for the day. Make the best of it, Joe. Right? Yeah. And I was brought up in this school of tough love, if you like, in Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'm still a full member of. Because I work every day to the principles of AA, and it is tough. Right? It's if you're feeling emotionally disturbed, something in you, right, needs to change. Not something about anybody else, right? Because there's always a habit. If you're emotionally disturbed, there's a habit, or there was in me, to point my finger and say, if only they changed, I'd feel a lot better, right? So they give you a list of, if you like, characteristics of the ego, right? The first one that causes more emotional disturbance is resentment, right? And if you look at the word resentment, it's something that's in your head, right? And it keeps drilling away at your peace of mind like termites that ceaselessly devour any peace of mind. That's what resentment is. And resentment just means is that somebody, right, hasn't behaved in the way that you thought they should. And my sponsor said to me is, that's called playing God, that, Joe. When you think everybody should act in a certain other way, right? Yeah. That's you playing God. And once I started to see all these things, so all the things that people do, and it's very, very nice, but everyone's talking about the solar fluxes now and this, that, and the other, so what? what are you going to do about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's because of a C class, M class, X class flare, right? Yeah, yeah, it could well be. Or it could be that you've just got your shoes too tight, you know, you tied too tight. So the whole point I'm trying to get to is where my life is now is it's dead simple. It's if you feel disturbed, don't take any action, Joe, unless your life's a threat right there and then. Take a step back, sink into it, see what it is. If you've got to say sorry to somebody, go and do it. If you've got to stand up to somebody, go and do it. If you've got to back off, go and do it, right? And then reset, as you said before, is restore your particular soul's homeostasis, which will be different than everybody else's. And then just try and go and find some joy in your life. And that's what I do all the time, you know.
Yeah.
And people have said to me, you know, a man in your position, maybe you shouldn't be joking so much. Maybe you shouldn't be swearing so much. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this, that, and the other. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your advice. I'll sit with that. That doesn't sit very well with me. But thanks, anyone. Thanks, everybody. And now you are off my Christmas card list, right? So all I'm saying is what you see is what you get, right?
Yes.
And you know, of course there's improvement. Of course there's some evolutionary impulse that's trying to make me an even better person than I already am. But Vicky, I don't know, love. I really don't know. But am I happy in myself? 100%. Are there things that need to improve according to me? Many, many things. But you know, I'm not that arsed about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think that's that. It's. I think that is probably one of the biggest things, isn't it? It's just keep coming back to self. If something is triggering you, if someone says something you don't like, if someone points out something, or come back to self. Just come back to self and sit with it. Sit with it. And you know what? There are those things that you've got to sit with for a long time. And I'm not talking like an hour. I'm talking a day, a week, a month, and maybe years. There are some things that might take us a while to work our way through, but the more we do that, the more we start to realize and the more we kind of understand. So, and that's what the human needs, right? The human needs to be able to sort of understand it to a certain extent, to process it. But yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I look out for, I mean, there's a list like resentment, self-pity, right? Self-pity just means nothing's going my way, right? Dishonesty, right?
Yeah.
Fear, pride, gossiping. And the gossiping, all the gossiping is when you're talking about what other people are doing, you've taken the focus off yourself, right? So
Yeah.
forget what everybody else is doing. Live and let live. Let them get on with it until it's directly in your face, having something to do with you. Then decide what you need to do with the help of your intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people you have got to like detach with love from. You know, it's
Yeah.
not to say that they won't come back in 3 months' time with some really important key or bit of information, you know. But, you know, I don't know. I feel strong. I feel forthright. I feel straightforward. The only message I've got to people is what you're looking for is in there. Don't be asking me. Because if I tell you to do something and you go and do it and it doesn't work, then you're going to blame me and therefore shift the responsibility from yourself. So all I can say to you is I've been shown some techniques to get you back into your intuition and your essential self, which is basically you're the real navigator, right? And if you practice these techniques and give it a good fair trial, right, and ask the question to your deeper self, right,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing from me head because my life's a mess. But I do know, because other people have done this, that their life seems to improve when they're guided from deeper within themselves. Will you please show me how to do it? And you're asking this, that's almost like the first step in humility, that when you realize that this doesn't know, you know, I feel like a preacher this morning, but that's the way that it is. It's just coming out so strongly that
Yeah.
it's obviously meant to, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting out of the head and
Yeah,
into the heart.
couldn't agree more. So in your sort of skill as a yin yoga practitioner, because I love yoga. I mean, as you know, yoga just means union. And it's basically, it's getting out of the way so that the union can happen automatically at the soul's level, whatever that means, you know. And soul to me is source of unconditional love. That's what soul means to me, you know. And each of us, and the soul has got a purpose, right? It is differentiated from the spirit itself, right? I'll explain this in another session maybe, but there's a difference between spirit and soul and mind and body. You know, there are differentiations, although it's all working together. But it's as soon as we label something, we can forget then that we've labeled it, and that separates everything in our mind, really. You know, and I think that that's what the illusion of separateness means, that we've put a label on it and we've almost like disconnected all the parts, you know. So I think if through breathing, because my thing is, if you're feeling disturbed, if you breathe out sharply, it disconnects you from the emotional engagement with it. It's like, get off me, you bastard. Get over there so I can see what's going on. And then you can look at it then, you know. So yin yoga, to me, yin means it's feminine, right? It's surrender, it's nurturing, and it's basically the masculine saying, hey mum, hey mum. Oh, fucking hell, I'm nearly crying when I'm saying this now. Oh, there we go. Hey mum, I don't know what to do. Will you please show me, because I'm a bit stuck here? No problem, son. Come here. I'll give you the cuddle, right? And you've got to go and take that. Like, oh, do I have to? Yes, you do, son. You know that you do, but it'll be much better. And I got told this morning is tell them about the meditation that you do, Joe, called Cradling the Sacred Child. And what that is basically is you put one hand on your heart, one on your solar plexus or your tummy, and you snuggle in as though you're cradling this sacred child. I can feel emotion coming up now, but I'm just going to go with it, you know. And if you can learn to breathe from both hands here while you snuggle the child in, and the heartbeat of the child and your heartbeat, where they'll start coherently coinciding with one another, that's when the true merger takes place, or the mergence, you know. And it's that child, if you like, the third point, the party, the triangulation, the trinity, call it what you like. It's that feeling that you have when connected to that child that will bring mum and dad back together again, you know. I didn't know that was all going to come up, but it's more than just focusing on the heart, but it's also focusing on your tummy as well, because that's where a lot of obstructions are, as you know, in the solar plexus. And just to go back to your yin yoga surrender, you know, I think that that's allowing gravity and levity to sort of coincide with one another, you know. So I also hatha yoga as well, you know, the principles of hatha. I would avoid, if possible, Ashtanga yoga and the power ones, because they can seem a little bit sort of ego trippy, those, really, you know. And I'm not knocking it, because I think if you get into yin first and hatha and even bhakti yoga and stuff like that, all those devotional, deeper feeling things, you may be led to Ashtanga later on. You get back into muscle toning and other physical stuff then. So I've talked a lot of shit there, but, you know, can you make some sense of that, really?
Like, you know what, actually, the hatha thing is really important. So again, it's this yin yang balance, right? So they're my two practices. Hatha is my personal practice. I'm trained in that as well. But that's for me. That's what I do at home. That's and as well as the yin, but doing both of those, and a gentle hatha practice. It's really important. Like you said, people get into this, you know, it's about tightening my ass. It's not about tightening your ass. It's really not. It's really not. And I'm like you. Some people have this feeling, and there's no judgment here, because I've been there. I was that person too when I was younger. I wanted to feel like I was working. I wanted to feel the burn. You know, I wanted to feel, oh yeah, this is going to tone my body, and I'm going to look good. You know, I did that, and it does do those things, and it is good for you and your body equally. But the point of it bringing you back into your body, and it being slow and gentle, and you actually listening to what your body's trying to tell you. And that's what we don't do, but that's what yin and hatha, for me personally, have helped me to be able to do, is to kind of slow down, listen in, because it's like, you know, it's cheesy, but your body, you know, everything, it has the answers if you'll just listen for long enough. And so having like a regular hatha and yin practice is amazing. And yeah, the yin thing for me is very holding in like my classes and my longer sessions that I do. I call them like embodied rest, because life is busy. We are like constantly on the go, right? Go, 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 go. And for me to feel held and supportive in a restorative, restful pose in like yin or I teach restorative as well. There's something very powerful in that. To be allowed this allowance to slow down and to rest and to listen to our bodies without judgment, right? And I think this is one of the biggest things, is becoming the witness. So taking that step back and being able to go, I am not those thoughts, I am not those feelings, I'm not those emotions, I am simply the witness behind them. It's like, oh, okay. And just allow it to be and allow it to come and go, and to be given permission and giving yourself permission to sit with that and see what comes up, and everything's okay. It's okay if you get really upset. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if you feel sad. Because that comes up a lot for a lot of people in my classes. I've had them have some real emotional releases. But again, this is working with the fascia as well, right? You'll know that when we release these emotions that get stuck in our fascia and our organs, a lot of people don't even realize where we hold our emotions in those places. And to be able to give them that gentle space to be able to release, it's really powerful. It's really powerful. And that's why I love it so much. I could go on and on, so I'm going to shut up now.
No. I think it's important, and I think fascia or fascia, as some people call it, myofascial. I've done a few papers to look at how myofascial release or trigger point release impacts upon the way that the heart works as well. So I've actually done some sort of scientific papers along 20 years ago, really, to show that it reset the balance of the heart at the level of the autonomic nervous system of the heart. And the thing about this is connective tissue, it sounds boring, really, but it isn't, because it's where your nadis and your meridian systems interface with your nervous system as well. And what's actually happening, for anyone who's scientifically inclined, the energy that's actually sweeping across the planet and increasing now with these solar influxes, right, is actually a magnetic energy, right? And so it's a magneto-electric effect. And that's why so many people are going through so-called ascension symptoms, because it's actually causing the electrons and the electrical system of the nervous system all the way through the body. It's causing almost like a flushing out effect, right? And people are like sort of loads of snots coming out, loads of everything. They've got irritable bowel, which is really another clearance thing, So it's almost to try and stay as natural as possible, to be grounded, to be hydrated, to be aware, and but it is really about being extraordinarily gentle with yourself. There's a phrase in the Desiderata that says, beyond a wholesome discipline, right, be gentle with yourself, and that keeps coming to me, and that's for everybody, including myself. And there are some times when I don't know whether I need to push myself more or rest more, and that's part of just beginning to understand, as you would say, equilibrium or balance, because it is all about balance. And I feel that the only way to become balanced is to get out of the way and realize that you do not know what balance is. But your intuition does. So if you can subtly listen deeper and deeper and deeper to the signals and the messages that are coming up and try and follow them, I swear to you that your life will improve beyond measure. But it might be challenging at times,
It's the things we resist the most sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's the breath work, and actually having a personal practice of breath work. I'm resistant to, put my hand up, I'm resistant to it, but I know that's what I need. And it is going to be profound once I start getting into that a little bit more, it's it's huge.
What I've found as well is there's a time thing going on as well, that when you become aware more of your body and your breathing, you can understand that anger and anxiety are at different poles, are at different ends of the spectrum, because anger is associated with you hanging on to stuff from the past, right? You can't be angry about something that's coming up because you don't know what's coming up. Anxiety is a worry and a concern about the future. you know. And if we allow, and that's masculine and feminine, yin and yang, it's all that again, because one's masculine characteristics, generally anger, and the anxiety is generally the feminine side, you know. So it's getting out of the way of that through breathing. Breathing is the central feature, if you like, that clears your Sushumna Nadi, you know, and it brings the two of them together like that, really. I just noticed that I used to have massive anxiety and panic attacks, you know, and people would say to me, think like this, but the processing wasn't going on in here. It was going on in my subconscious, you know, and, you know, there's so much that we can talk about. But Vicky, it's coming up to 5 now. We've got 5 minutes left. You know, this is called Getting Really, Really, Really Real with Dr. Joe. And all that means is really is, have you got some simple, straightforward, practical, based on experience tips that you may feel, and if people practice them, it might help them to go forward?
I think it's just what we discussed, is finding that balance in yourself, coming back to the breath. It's everything to be able to come back to your breath. If you can just sit with that, bringing your awareness back into your body, feeling your breath in your body, feeling it into your tummy if you can, and coming back to the heart. Come back to the heart constantly. It knows.
Yeah,
it knows. So
no, I totally agree. And I think other things that I might add based upon my own experiences, connective tissue massage, right, would be a start. And as you work through those, if you like, those somatic layers, then that will take you deeper into your viscera where all your organs are. So then you can go into maybe deeper, more remedial things, right? And also things like shiatsu, you know, so shiatsu is all about balance as well in different organs, you know. I also found as well, and I've studied it for a long time, is the work of somebody called Master Mantak Chia. And that's about the fusion of the 5 elements, really. And it's basically the central philosophy, if you want to call it that, is about the way that we breathe and how we can use visualization to almost imagine that we're breathing in a loop in that central channel, you know. And when you get good at it, you can use this and go the other way around. And what that does is the breathing and the imagination and feeling, it brings those two disparities together, and they start to work with one another then as well. Now, you know, some of the stuff that we've maybe talked about might seem a little bit out of the box, but I think that my stuff is really, and Vicky's, you know, and Kristin's, and all the people that, you know, that we're working with, it all seems to me about coming out of the head, right, and the fantasizing, if you like, and bringing the information into the body, and then grounding it, because grounding it, that's where real materialization takes place, right? And then we can start to put into action the inspiration that we're getting from these sort of extra dimensional streams of consciousness. What do you think?
Couldn't agree more. So
just before, what are you doing for the rest of the day? Don't mean personal stuff, anything good? Or
no, today is an admin day. Yay. Coming back to the real world, getting organized, getting on top of my work admin, joy. But I will get out for a walk. It is beautiful out there today. I don't know if you've seen, like, the sun is beaming right now. So yeah, get out for a nice long walk, do some yoga. Yeah. The admin is the boring bit. It's the balance, you know.
Yeah, well, I was up early this morning. Well, you know, and here, I don't know whether you can see that there. Admin work. I've got 60 assignments to mark, right?
Ooh.
I hate it, and I'm being honest, I hate it. And I feel the grip, and then I get, well, son, you've got to do that to get some money in, because you'd only be moaning if you were hungry. I go, oh God. So it's to balance that as well. As the reality of it is, get it done. Try and keep your heart open, right? And you'll feel better when they're all out of the way, you know. So basically, for the next 2 weeks, my head's going to be like marking stuff, you know. So just to say to anybody that's listening, you know, I know that lots of people message me for various reasons. If I don't get back to you, it's not because I don't love you, right? It's because my head's up my arse, right, with marking, and I've got to do it. Otherwise, right, I won't be able to keep my wife, right? into what she's accustomed to, fine jewelry, and she'll kill me if she ever listens to anything I do on here. She'd definitely kill me, you know. Vicky, my love, it's so lovely to see you, and I know that we're going to meet up in person again at some point in the future. I can feel that happening, you know. Now, you know, whether that's a prediction or not, it's a strong feeling that I've got, you know. So I hope that that comes true. And just before we go, darling, anything to like?
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. There's so much more, so much more we could dive into, but yeah, what came up today was what was meant to come up for today, and so yeah.
No, I agree. So none of those notes got answered then?
I've got like 3 pages of stuff we still need to like. I'd love to talk to you about. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll have another one of these further down the line, you know. And I think there's almost like a little group forming, you know, all of its own accord, you know, without any sort of manipulation. So I think that that's going to be happening. And yeah, and thank you everybody for listening, you know. And if you can, just try and practice these sort of physical things, you know. And my final remarks are: there's a flushing going on at the moment, and the more that we can use water and movements and a bit of brisk activity, you know, but just more than anything else is allow the gates of your heart to open and allow your soul to come flying through and express itself. I think that's the way forward for the world, you know. Right, so may the force be with you forever and ever. And normally parties say, oh, by the way, do you like me backdrop there? Isn't it amazing how nature can create, maybe we'll, yeah, how nature can create those wonderful patterns, right? And that's maybe something that we'll talk about on another occasion before we get closed down.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you so much,
darling. Thanks very much, and speak to you soon. Bye bye.